I didn't mean to touch her. That's the part that still replays in my head over and over again. It happened so fast. 1 second I was alone, drifting through the wreckage field outside Jupiter's dead orbit, and the next I wasn't. My ship had already given up on me. Lights flickering. Oxygen warning whispering like a countdown to nothing. I thought I was done. Then I saw her. At first, I thought she was part of the debris, something metallic, floating too still to be alive. But then she moved, slowly, gracefully, like space itself was bending around her. Her armor shimmered, not like metal, not like anything I've ever seen. It looked alive, deep violet with thin veins of light running across it, pulsing softly like a heartbeat. And her eyes for God. Her eyes weren't human. They glowed faintly, silver and endless, like staring into a reflection that knew more about you than you did. I should have been terrified, but I wasn't. I was curious, stupidly curious. She drifted closer to my ship without a word, examining it, examining me. And I don't know why, but something in me just reacted. Maybe it was the silence. Maybe it was the way her armor had this faint layer of dust and ice from the debris field. Or maybe I just needed to feel useful one last time before I died. So I reached out and I wiped it. Just a small motion, my glove brushing across her shoulder plate, clearing a thin streak of frost. That's it. That's all I did. And everything changed. She froze, not like surprised. No, like the entire universe had just stopped inside her. Her head turned slowly toward me. Those glowing eyes locked onto mine. And for the first time, I felt fear crawl up my spine. Do you even know, she said, her voice low, controlled, but shaking underneath, what that means? My throat went dry. What ache, what do you mean? I asked. Inside, my thoughts were racing. Did I damage something? Was that armor sensitive? Did I just insult her? She stared at the spot I had touched, then back at me. And then something even stranger happened. Her expression softened, just a little. In my world, she said quietly, that gesture is not accidental, but I blinked. It was. I swear, it was just... You cleared my armor. She interrupted, her voice sharper now. You removed the marks of battle. You touched me without fear. Her gaze deepened. That is a claim. My heart skipped. A claim. To touch a warrior there, she continued, is to accept their pace and bind your future to theirs. I actually laughed. Not because it was funny, but because it couldn't be real. That's insane. I didn't know. I'm just some guy in a broken ship. But she didn't laugh, didn't even smile. Instead, she moved closer, too close. You did not know, she said softly, but the bond does not care about intention. I felt it then, a faint warmth spreading from my hand, the one that touched her, crawling up my arm like something waking up inside me. What is this? I whispered. Her eyes widened slightly. You feel it already. My pulse spiked. Feel what? She hesitated, and for the first time she looked afraid. This armor, she said slowly, is not just protection. It is alive. It chooses to. My stomach dropped. No, I didn't sign up for that. You need to undo it. But her expression darkened. It cannot be undone. A silence swallowed us. Only the distant crackle of my dying ship remained. You don't understand, I said, panic rising. Have a life, a home. I can't just become part of whatever this is. She studied me for a long moment. Then she asked something that hit harder than anything else. Would they come to you? I froze. What? Your people, she said. If you were lost here, would they cross the stars to find you? My mind went blank. Faces flashed. Friends, family promise, excuses. Silence. And that was my answer. She nodded slowly. I thought so. The warmth in my arm spread further into my chest now. Not painful, just permanent. What happens to me? I asked, my voice barely holding together. Her hand, warm, steady, reached out and hovered near mine. If the bond completes, she said, you will no longer belong to your world. I swallowed. And yours? She held my gaze. You will belong with me. My heart should have resisted. My mind should have fought it. But instead I felt something else. A pull, not forced, not controlled, chosen. And that's when I realized something terrifying. The armor didn't just choose me, I was starting to choose it too. Why me? I asked. Out of all the beings in the universe, why me? She looked at the streak I had wiped clean, then back at me, because she said quietly, "You were the first being in centuries who touched me." Her voice softened. Without trying to take anything, then the warm surge. The ship alarm screamed one final time. Then silence, darkness, and her voice, the last thing I heard before everything changed. "No, you understand what it means." When I woke up, I wasn't in my ship. I wasn't even human anymore. And the mark I thought I had erased from her armor. I didn't expect to find anyone out there, not in that silence, not in that dead stretch of space where even light felt tired. My ship had been drifting for hours, maybe days, I couldn't tell anymore. The systems were failing one by one, like a body slowly giving up. First the navigation, then the heat, then the lights, flickering like they were arguing with the dark. I remember thinking, this is it, no explosion. No heroic last message, just fading. And then something moved. At first, I thought it was Debra's, just another broken piece of metal spinning through the void. But this wasn't spinning. It was too still. I leaned closer to the cracked viewport, wiping away a thin layer of frost with my sleeve. My breath caught. There was a figure out there, humanoid, floating just beyond my ship, suspended like gravity had forgotten her, but somehow remembered everything else. She wasn't wearing a suit, at least not one I recognized. Her body was wrapped in something sleek and seamless, like liquid metal frozen mid-flow. It clung to her form, shifting slightly as if it were breathing with her. Dark, almost black, but when the faint starlight touched it, colors rippled across the surface. Deep violet, blue, silver olive, that's the only word that made sense. My heart started pounding. That's not possible. No human could survive out there. Which she moved. Slowly, her head turned toward me. And I swear, even through the glass, through the void, I felt it. She saw me, I froze. Every instinct screamed at me to look away, to hide, to shut down whatever weak signal my dying ship was still giving off. But I couldn't. Her eyes, they glowed. Soft at first, like distant stars. But as she drifted closer, they brightened. Not harsh, not blinding. Just deep, like looking into something that had been awake long before I was born. I should have been afraid. I was afraid. But beneath that fear, there was something else. Curiosity. Dangerous, stupid curiosity. She approached my ship without any visible movement. No thrusters, no propulsion, just a quiet glide, like space itself was carrying her closer. Closer, until she was right there, just beyond the glass. For a moment, we just stared at each other. No words, no sound, just two beings separated by a thin layer of reinforced glass and an entire universe of difference. Then she lifted her hand, slowly, deliberately, and placed it against the hull. Right where I was, I flinched. What is she doing? My breath fogged the glass again, and without thinking, I reached up, mirroring her. My glove hovered inches away from the surface. This is insane, I whispered to myself, but I didn't stop. I pressed my hand against the glass, right where hers was on the other side. And the moment our hands aligned, something happened, not outside. Inside, a faint vibration ran through the ship, soft, subtle, but wrong. The systems which had been dying seconds ago suddenly flickered back to life. Screens glowed, air hummed through the vents again. What? I looked around in shock, then back at her. She was watching me more intensely now, studying me, like I had just done something important without realizing it. My mind raced. Did I activate something? Is she controlling this? Is this a trap? I should have pulled away. I didn't. Instead, I leaned closer, and that's when I noticed it. A faint layer of dust and frozen particles clung to her armor. Tiny fragments from the debris field, scattered across her shoulder and arm. It looked out of place. Everything else about her was so precise, so perfect. But that small detail, it bothered me. I don't know why. Maybe it was instinct. Maybe it was nerves. Maybe I just needed something simple to focus on in a moment that made no sense. So I moved. I opened the outer hatch. Yeah, I know, worst decision of my life, or maybe the most important one. The emergency seal held just enough atmosphere for a few seconds, not long. but long enough. Cold air rushed out as I stepped into the threshold tethered to the ship. She didn't move, didn't react, just watched. "Hey," I said, my voice shaking, unsure if she could even hear me. I don't know who you are, but I stopped. That dust again, right there on her shoulder. Without thinking, I reached out. My gloved hand brushed gently across the surface of her armor, clearing the thin layer of frost and debris in a single, careful motion. It was such a small thing. So small. And yet, the universe seemed to hold its breath. She froze, complete drifting, not blinking. Nothing, just still. My stomach dropped. I slowly pulled my hand back. Sori didn't mean her head turned, sharp, precise. Those glowing eyes locked onto mine, brighter now, intense, almost overwhelming. And for the first time, I felt something close to real fear. Her voice came a second later, clear, cold. I couldn't stop staring at her armor. Even after everything, the impossible way she moved, the silence of space wrapped around her like it belonged to her. I kept getting pulled back to it. It wasn't just protection. It couldn't be. Armor is supposed to look solid, rigid, built to withstand force. Hers flowed. That's the only way I can explain it. The surface shifted in slow, subtle waves, like liquid trying to remember how to be metal. Colors moved beneath it. Deep purples, streaks of blue, flashes of silver that pulsed faintly, almost like a heartbeat. I leaned closer to the glass, squinting. Is that reacting to me? Every time I moved, the patterns changed slightly, not dramatically, but enough that it felt intentional, like it was aware. A strange thought crept into my mind. What if it's not armor at all? A chill ran through me, and it had nothing to do with the cold. She drifted closer again, closing the small gap between us until she was right outside the hull. Close enough that I could see details now, fine lines etched into the surface, curving across her body in patterns that didn't look random. They looked like symbols or scars. No, not scars, more like history. Each line shimmered differently, some brighter than others, as if they carried weight, meaning. My fingers twitched inside my glove. Don't touch it. That thought came loud and clear, but right behind it, just a closer look. I swallowed. This was insane. I was floating in a dying ship, face to face with something that clearly wasn't human. And instead of backing away, my brain decided this was the moment to investigate alien fashion. Great, I muttered. Curiosity really is how I go out. Bah, she tilted her head slightly, watching me. No hostility, no warning, just observation. And somehow that made it worse, because it felt like permission. I hesitated for a second longer, then reached for the hatch controls. The outer seal hissed as it loosened, warning lights flickering weakly. Cold crept in, immediately brushing against my suit like a reminder that this was a terrible idea. Still, I stepped forward. The tether at my waist pulled tight as I moved just outside the ship, floating in front of her. The silence hit me instantly, heavy and absolute. No sound, no air, just